Welcome to the study. Today, we're really going to put on our hats as meticulous biblical researchers to unpack this incredibly complex, ancient prophetic puzzle. It's literally been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years. We're diving deep into ancient texts, looking at some very specific numerical dimensions, and uncovering geographical clues that point to something absolutely massive in our modern world. So let's get right into it. But just real quick, before we jump in, I want to note that this entire study is actually a summary of the phenomenal research derived from the YouTube channel Barley Harvest. They have done some seriously incredible deep diving into these scriptures. You can find a link to their original full presentation right down in the description below, and I highly, highly encourage you to go check that out. Okay, let's dive into this. We're starting off with this massive central riddle drawn straight from the book of Revelation, specifically chapters 17 and 18. John describes this great city with a truly global reach. The merchants of the entire earth grow wealthy off of her. But the text repeats, 3 separate times, mind you, that she burns in a single hour, a total devastating collapse in just 1 hour. But here's the catch. John doesn't give this entity just one name. He assigns it 4 completely distinct geographic and historical names. So we really have to ask this critical question. What kind of entity can be in 4 different places at once, yet burn as one, in a single hour? Well, to solve this, we've got to look at the name written right on her forehead. Revelation 17:5 says her name is Mystery, Babylon the Great. Now, mystery isn't just some descriptive word added by a helpful translator or modern commentator. It's actually her first name, written directly on her forehead. And in the ancient world, that was a strict identifier, telling you exactly what you were dealing with. This means her true nature is deliberately concealed beneath an apparent identity. She presents to the world as one thing, but she is secretly something entirely different.
Beneath that veil of mystery, the text explicitly links her to 4 very distinct places. We have Sodom, which is a city. We have Egypt, which is an entire nation. Jerusalem, pointed to as the exact site where their Lord was crucified. And Babylon, an ancient city of origins. These 4 names span completely different moral, spiritual, and geographical registers. Think about it. You literally cannot put all of these on a single map and then burn them simultaneously in 1 hour. It totally defies literal geography.
You know, some interpretive traditions do try to force a geographic fit. They'll often point to the physical city of Jerusalem because of that crucifixion reference. But as rigorous researchers, we really have to test that theory. If we compare the ultimate prophetic destinies of geographic Jerusalem against Mystery Babylon, well, the theory falls apart pretty fast. We have to look at what Scripture actually says is the permanent fate of both of these locations. There's an incredibly stark contrast here. Revelation says Mystery Babylon becomes a haunt for demons, and that the voice of the bridegroom will be heard in her no more. In fact, 7 times it emphasizes she will be found no more. Now, look at Jerusalem's destiny over in Ezekiel and Isaiah. It says, the name of the city from that day on will be The Lord is There. Jerusalem is destined to be the place where the Lord is present forever. Therefore, Jerusalem simply cannot be the city whose voice goes permanently silent and gets overrun by demons. The text absolutely refuses that interpretation. So if we're not looking at a literal map of ancient cities, what exactly are we looking for? Well, the text describes a great port city, where shipmasters actually watch her burn from the water. And even more importantly, it notes the economic flow. The merchants of the earth grow rich off of her. Notice that. She doesn't just sell to everyone sells to her. In the ancient world, only Rome fit this bill. Pliny even complained that 100 million sesterces drained out of the Roman Empire every single year just to pay for its massive consumption of luxury goods. Rome pulled all the wealth inward. And this brilliantly illustrates what we see in our modern generation. Today, the rest of the world sells way more to America than they buy back, to the tune of roughly $1 trillion a year. But here is the truly stunning part. Roughly $2 trillion of global wealth settles every single day through one singular financial district in New York City. $2 trillion. The wealth of nations is denominated in her currency, and it literally clears through her specific address. She holds massive leverage over the kings and economies of the earth, which perfectly fulfills the shadow of those ancient trade networks. So, returning to those 4 names, we now have to look way past the physical geography and focus on the spirits they evoke. Sodom represents pride, abundance, and a life of ease with absolutely no hand for the poor. Egypt represents a house of bondage and demanding power. Jerusalem, in its apostate sense, represents hollow religion, basically wearing the vocabulary of God like a costume without any genuine devotion. And Babylon, going all the way back to Genesis, is humanity gathering together to build a towering monument to its own self-glory.
It's four distinct spirits living inside one modern body.
Interestingly, Jesus actually gave us the core principle for how these spirits operate through time. When an evil spirit leaves, it doesn't just vanish into thin air. It goes out and looks for a new house. And when it returns, it brings with it 7 other spirits more evil than itself. The biblical principle here is that a spirit migrating through history does not weaken or diminish. It reproduces. It compounds, meaning its modern state is vastly worse and far more concentrated than its ancient origins ever were.
Part 1, Zechariah's Flying Scroll and the Geometry of Judgment.
Now, to truly understand how this ultimate compounded city actually meets its 1-hour destruction, we have to jump back about 500 years before the book of Revelation was even written. In Zechariah chapter 5, the prophet looks up and sees a flying scroll. The angel asks him what he sees, and he says, "I see a flying scroll 20 cubits long and 10 cubits wide." Now, think about that. A flat sheet of parchment that's 20 by 10, that's a 2-to-1 ratio, roughly 30 feet by 15 feet. That's a billboard. That's not a scroll. And God doesn't just throw in precise measurements decoratively, they are load-bearing details. So what is this really describing? Now, what's really interesting about this is how the ancient world actually measured scrolls. According to ancient Talmudic rules, scribes didn't measure a scroll laying flat. They measured its length and its rolled circumference. Because a scroll is a cylinder, right? When you apply the ancient royal cubit to these exact numbers, treating those 10 cubits as the circumference, the math perfectly translates to a cylinder approximately 35 feet in length and 5.5 feet in diameter. Astonishingly, these are the exact dimensional ranges of a modern weapon, like the Pakistani Gori missile. Then, in his second back-to-back vision, Zechariah sees a basket going out. And inside this basket is a woman named Wickedness. But there is a brilliant Hebrew double meaning at play right here. The Hebrew word for woman is Isha, but sharing the exact same 3 consonants is the word Ishe, which translates to a fire offering. In prophetic literature, God frequently lays 2 true meanings right on top of each other. So, this is a woman named Wickedness, whose very identifier literally writes a fire offering directly into her destiny. The angel then forcefully shoves this woman, this fire offering, back down into the basket, and seals it shut with a heavy lead cover. In fact, the text specifically emphasizes the lead cover being pressed down twice. Lead is the ultimate deadweight. You would never choose to fly heavy lead through the air unless the shielding it provided mattered far, far more than its cumbersome weight. So what does lead shield? It seals, it contains, and in our modern context, it shields from highly dangerous materials, like radiation. So the crucial point is how these 2 visions actually create a precise tactical timeline. Vision 2 shows a sealed, lead-shielded payload carried long distance by stork wings, or basically the wind. It's delivered to a house, set firmly on its base, and left completely dormant. Then Vision 1 shows the flying scroll, which has the exact dimensions of a modern missile, arriving later at a house to suddenly consume its timbers and stones. What we're looking at is a dormant device being planted, just waiting for an airborne trigger. And where exactly does the angel say they're taking this lead-sealed basket? To the land of Shinar, to build a house for it. Shinar is the original ancient geography of Babel, the very first kingdom of Nimrod. But remember our principle from earlier. The spirit migrates and reproduces. Shinar here isn't just some desolate desert in modern Mesopotamia. It's the prophetic name for the spirit's ultimate, compounded destination. It's the modern house where the mother of prostitutes has set up her final global financial epicenter. Part 2, the 11th-story echo, shadows in the architecture. Let's move to our final point and see how this builds. The Bible often uses numbers as structural markers across history. And there is one specific number that ties the ancient patriarchs directly to the modern ground of Mystery Babylon. In the biblical text, both Joseph and Joshua, 2 massive foundational pillars of the nation of Israel, lived to be exactly 110 years old. 2 men, the exact same number, both acting as monumental towers for their people. Fast forward to our generation. Standing right on the ground of the world's financial epicenter in New York City, there once stood 2 physical pillars. And how tall were they? Exactly 110 stories each. 2 pillars, the exact same number, standing right on Mystery Babylon's own ground. Now, when those 110-story towers fell, they didn't topple over sideways like a tree. They came straight down.
directly into their own footprints. This perfectly echoes the ancient text of Judges, where a mocked and blind Samson grasps the two middle pillars of a proud house. He bows with all his strength, and the entire house falls straight down upon the people celebrating inside. It's just an absolutely incredible shadow parallel of a proud, wealthy structure collapsing perfectly straight down between two pillars.
Over 25 centuries ago, Zechariah was given a vision of a lead-shielded fire offering, carried across the world to a wealthy, proud house, just waiting for a flying scroll to trigger its one-hour destruction. If the spirit of Babylon has always needed a physical house to operate its global control, where is it dwelling right now? And more importantly, when does the flying scroll arrive for activation? The signs are hiding in plain sight. It's up to us to stay awake, keep studying the scriptures, and watch. Thank you so much for joining this study today.